When humans slept less. A candle trembles in the darkness. The flame is small, weak, almost fragile. Outside, the wind moves through narrow streets lined with stone and timber. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barks once and then falls silent. The night is deep enough that the world seems unfinished. A man sits beside the candle. He is not reading. He is not working. He is waiting. His eyes drift toward the black window. Then eventually he lies down and sleeps. Not because a clock tells him to, not because tomorrow's schedule demands it, but because his body has reached a boundary older than language, older than agriculture, older than civilization itself. For most of human history, sleep was not a lifestyle choice. It was an ecological event. And then something happened. Something so recent, so ordinary, and so deeply woven into modern life that most people never question it. The Industrial Revolution did not simply change how humans worked, it changed when humans slept, and in doing so, it may have altered the biology of our species. Not metaphorically, literally. Because the story of modern civilization is also the story of a strange experiment. An experiment in forcing an ancient nervous system to live according to the demands of a machine, and the results are still unfolding. Most people imagine sleep as a biological constant, a fixed behavior. Something humans have always done in roughly the same way, 8 hours. At night, in one uninterrupted block. That is the assumption. It is also almost certainly wrong. For centuries, historians noticed something strange hidden inside old diaries, court records, medical texts, and personal letters. People kept referring to something called first sleep, and then later, second sleep. The references appeared everywhere: England, France, Italy, Germany. Entire populations seemed to describe sleep as two separate events. At first, researchers assumed the writers were speaking metaphorically. They were not. People would go to bed shortly after sunset, sleep for several hours, wake naturally around midnight, remain awake for 1 or 2 hours, then return to sleep until dawn. This was not insomnia, it was normal. Normal enough that nobody bothered explaining it. Imagine that. Millions of people waking in the middle of the night and feeling no anxiety whatsoever, no glowing screens, no panic, no desperate attempts to force themselves back to sleep. The darkness itself became a room within the day, a period for reflection, conversation, prayer, reading, intimacy, thought, and then eventually second sleep, a rhythm that persisted for generations, possibly centuries, maybe longer, which raises an unsettling possibility. What if modern sleep is not humanity's natural state? What if it is a cultural invention? And if that is true, what else changed when we abandoned it? The answer begins long before factories, long before railroads, long before steam. It begins in the wilderness. For nearly all of human existence, survival depended on reading environmental signals: light, temperature, season, weather. The rising and setting of the sun did not merely illuminate reality, it organized reality. Inside the human brain sits a structure no larger than a grain of rice, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the body's master clock. For hundreds of thousands of years, it synchronized human biology with the movement of the earth itself. Hormones rose and fell according to sunlight. Body temperature shifted according to darkness. Genes switched on and off according to time. The entire organism became a living calendar, a biological conversation between flesh and the cosmos. Then humans discovered something extraordinary: artificial light, at first candles, then oil lamps, then gas light, and finally electricity. Each innovation appeared harmless, even miraculous: more productivity, more freedom, more control over nature. But every technological victory concealed a biological negotiation, because evolution never prepared humans for artificial noon at midnight. The sun disappeared from the sky. Yet the brain kept receiving signals that daylight remained. The clock began receiving contradictory instructions, and slowly, almost invisibly, civilization started drifting away from its biological foundations. Then came the factories, the true turning point. The machine had one requirement: consistency. Unlike crops, rivers, seasons, and animals, machines did not care about human rhythms. Machines demanded obedience, every day, every hour, every minute. A factory could not function according to individual sleep cycles. Workers needed synchronization, not with nature, with production. This was a revolutionary idea, and a dangerous one. For the first time in history, vast numbers of human beings were expected to structure their biological lives around mechanical systems. The clock became sovereign. Its authority spread everywhere, into homes, schools, cities, bodies. By the 19th century, something unprecedented was happening. Millions of people were waking not because their bodies had completed sleep, but because a machine required their presence. The distinction sounds small. It was enormous. Because evolution measures reality in generations, civilization can rewrite reality in decades. And the body does not always keep up. The modern 8-hour workday is often remembered as a humanitarian achievement. In many ways, it was. Workers fought fiercely for it. Some died for it. The alternative was even worse. 14-hour shifts, 16-hour shifts, children laboring through darkness, factories consuming entire lives. The 8-hour movement represented progress. But there is another layer to the story, a stranger layer. The movement standardized human time. Work became standardized. School became standardized. Meals became standardized. Sleep became standardized. Entire populations began organizing themselves around the same schedule, and something remarkable happened. Human diversity of rhythm began disappearing. Researchers now know that people do not share identical biological clocks. Some naturally wake early, others naturally wake late. These differences are partly genetic. They have existed throughout human history. In hunter-gatherer groups, this variation may have provided an advantage. Someone was usually awake, someone was usually alert. The tribe rarely slept completely at once. But industrial society viewed variation as inefficiency. Factories preferred uniformity. Schools preferred uniformity. Offices preferred uniformity. The biological orchestra became a marching band, and millions of people found themselves permanently out of sync with their own nervous systems. Perhaps that is the real trap. Not factories, not clocks, not even the 8-hour workday. The trap is believing that biology ultimately adapts to every demand we place upon it. History suggests otherwise. Evolution moves slowly, civilization moves fast. And whenever those speeds diverge, consequences emerge, sometimes immediately, sometimes centuries later. The Industrial Revolution transformed landscapes, economies, governments, and technologies. But its most profound alteration may have occurred inside the human skull, in the silent architecture of sleep, in the rhythms that once synchronized flesh with sunlight, in the ancient dialogue between darkness and the nervous system. A dialogue now interrupted by alarms, schedules, notifications, and electric suns glowing long after midnight. Tonight, millions of people will lie awake staring into artificial light. Some will believe they are wasting time, others will believe they are being productive. Most will never consider that their struggle may be part of a much larger story. A story that began with steam engines and factory whistles. A story still unfolding inside every human brain, because the question was never whether humanity changed the world. That part is obvious. The deeper question is whether the world we created changed us in return, and if it did, if generations of artificial light, industrial schedules, and mechanical time have quietly reshaped the rhythms of human biology, then the modern night is no longer merely a period of darkness. It is a mirror, a place where an ancient species encounters the civilization it built. And sometimes, in the glow of a screen at 2 in the morning, those two realities no longer recognize each other. The clock says the future has arrived. The body is not so sure.